Hace unos días habíamos conversado acerca de un hallazgo, algo que llamó mucho la atención en Colombia, la esfera de Buga.
When the metallic sphere crashed into a quiet field in Buga, Colombia, no one imagined it would ignite one of the most shocking scientific debates of the century. At first, it seemed like another strange UFO story. But when researchers opened their first scans, every detail matched something described decades earlier by a man once mocked as a fraud, Bob Lazar. The shape, the structure, even the way it defied gravity were identical. And just when scientists thought they had seen it all, they discovered one more secret hidden deep inside the sphere, a detail so impossible it changed everything. The man who found the sphere was named David Velez, a local farmer who often searched for old coins with his metal detector. That morning, he noticed his device beeping wildly near a strange circle of burned grass in an empty field. When he brushed the ashes away, he saw something shining beneath the dirt, a smooth silver ball about the size of a basketball. At first, he thought it was part of an old weather balloon. But the moment he tried to lift it, he realized something was wrong. The sphere was far too light, only around 4 to 5 pounds, as if it were hollow. Yet it felt dense, perfectly balanced, almost alive in his hands. When scientists from Mexico's National Autonomous University arrived days later, the mystery only deepened. They recorded its temperature, magnetic field, and density, but nothing made sense. The metal didn't match any known alloy, and its surface showed no marks from tools or welding. Under a microscope, it looked flawless, like it had never been built but simply formed. Then came the most shocking change. 2 weeks after its discovery, the same sphere that had weighed barely 5 pounds now measured over 22 pounds on a precision scale. No additional material had been added, and no reaction could explain such a jump. Somehow, it had gained mass on its own. The scientists began running controlled tests, placing the object in different environments. To their astonishment, the sphere's weight would fluctuate depending on pressure, temperature, and even electromagnetic exposure. In some conditions, it lost more than 80% of its mass, floating just enough to make the scale flicker. It was as if gravity itself had less effect on it. No known material behaves like that. The team confirmed there were no hidden mechanisms, no batteries, no moving parts inside. Everything about it violated the laws of physics taught in every classroom on Earth. But that was not all. The ground where the sphere had fallen was equally strange. The soil was completely dry, almost crystallized, as though every drop of moisture had been pulled from it. Plants near the crater had withered instantly, their roots reduced to dust. Even months later, nothing grew back in that spot. Local farmers called it cursed, but geologists said it was more like sterilization, a chemical or energetic event that removed all life from the soil. The object became the focus of international attention. Governments quietly sent agents to observe the experiments, while independent researchers requested samples they were never allowed to take. Rumors spread that it emitted faint radiation, though no one could detect consistent readings. To the public, it was a mystery. To the scientists, it was a nightmare. Every test they ran only raised more questions. If this sphere wasn't built by humans, then who or what had the knowledge to create it? And what kind of technology could make an object gain and lose weight as if it were controlling gravity itself? When the research team brought the sphere into the laboratory, they expected a simple metallic sample, something they could test, classify, and store. What they found instead was a structure that seemed to rewrite the rules of engineering. Under X-ray and CT scanning, the sphere revealed an interior unlike anything ever recorded. 3 concentric layers wrapped perfectly around one another, each with a different density and atomic arrangement. The outer shell was incredibly smooth, made of a material harder than titanium, yet strangely flexible under pressure. The middle layer was thinner, with microscopic fibers stretching in every direction. At the center sat a small nucleus surrounded by 16 to 18 smaller metallic orbs, each one perfectly spaced as if following a geometric code. When the researchers increased the scanning resolution, another surprise emerged. Dozens of ultra-thin filaments connected the central core to the smaller spheres, forming what looked like a glowing web. Each strand was less than a human hair in width, but they transmitted faint electromagnetic signals, as if carrying information between the layers. No known human technology could produce wiring so fine and precise without visible seams or junctions. It was a design that looked more organic than mechanical, as if it had been grown rather than built. Scientists tested the material under different energy sources, laser beams, magnetic fields, and acoustic vibrations, but none of them caused damage. Instead, the sphere reacted, changing its internal temperature and releasing small bursts of electromagnetic energy, almost like a pulse. It was as if the object were responding to the tests, learning or adapting in real time. The team began to wonder if they were not examining a piece of machinery, but a form of technology that could think for itself. Chemical analysis only deepened the mystery. The metallic layers contained elements not found anywhere on Earth, with isotope ratios that didn't match any natural formation. The fibers behaved like advanced fiber optics, capable of transmitting not just light, but data patterns at incredible speed. Some scientists speculated the structure was a data processor, a communication device, or even a self-contained probe. Others believed it might be a power source, one that could manipulate energy fields and gravity itself. Despite endless testing, no one could identify how the parts inside moved or functioned. The sphere remained silent, yet alive with energy. Researchers described hearing faint vibrations when the lights were off, like a distant hum resonating through the lab walls. Instruments recorded irregular magnetic fluctuations similar to a heartbeat. Whatever was happening inside, it wasn't random. Every pulse, every change followed a repeating rhythm that suggested control and purpose. The more the scientists studied, the clearer it became that this object didn't belong to any timeline of human invention. Its construction was too perfect, its precision too deliberate, and its materials too advanced. It was something meant to be discovered, something designed to make us question how much we really know about the world. If this sphere contained an internal system capable of communication and adaptation, then who or what was it trying to reach? Long before the Buga Sphere appeared, a man had already described something eerily similar. His name was Bob Lazar, and in 1989, he told a story that the world refused to believe. Lazar claimed he had worked at a secret facility called S4, located near the infamous Area 51 in Nevada. His job, according to him, was not to design weapons or aircraft, but to reverse engineer flying crafts that did not come from Earth. He said there were 9 of them hidden underground, each one powered by a small, perfectly smooth metallic reactor that could bend gravity itself. At the time, his words sounded insane. he described a reactor no larger than 18 inches across, made from a mysterious element he called 115-something that didn't even exist on the periodic table. This reactor, Lazar said, contained a central piece surrounded by smaller metallic orbs that amplified gravitational waves. When activated, it created its own gravity field, allowing the craft to lift effortlessly, move silently, and change direction at impossible speeds. To most scientists, that was pure science fiction. They laughed, saying such material could never exist and that no machine could control gravity. Yet decades later, many details of Lazar's account began to make sense. In 2003, researchers at a Russian laboratory successfully synthesized element 115, later named moscovium. Though unstable and short-lived, it proved that the element was real, not imaginary. Suddenly, Lazar's claim didn't sound so far-fetched. Even the US government, which had long denied the existence of Area 51, eventually admitted the base was real and used for testing advanced aircraft. Every time a hidden truth surfaced, pieces of his story quietly fell into place. But the most striking part came when scientists examined the Buga Sphere. The resemblance was impossible to ignore. A small metallic core surrounded by spherical components, seamless construction with no rivets or joints, and the ability to reduce mass everything matched Lazar's description of the alien reactor. It was as if someone had taken the blueprint from his words and brought it to life. What once seemed like wild imagination was now backed by physical evidence. The sphere from Colombia demonstrated the same principles Lazar described 36 years earlier. Even the way it interacted with electromagnetic energy mirrored his explanation of how alien craft manipulated gravitational fields. The parallel was too precise to be random. For Lazar, this was vindication, though it came too late to restore his reputation. For decades, he had been dismissed as a fraud, mocked by scientists and hunted by skeptics. Yet the Buga Sphere's discovery forced the world to reconsider everything it thought it knew. Could Lazar have been telling the truth all along? If his story was real, then humanity's most advanced physics was already decades behind another intelligence. The question was no longer whether aliens existed, but how long they had been watching us. And if the Buga Sphere truly operated like the devices Lazar described, then the next mystery was even more unsettling. What exactly was it designed to do? When scientists compared the Buga Sphere with Bob Lazar's old descriptions, the similarities were too specific to dismiss. Each detail seemed to line up as if someone had built the sphere using Lazar's memories as a guide. The first match was the size. Lazar said the alien reactor he studied measured about 18 inches across, while the Buga Sphere measured roughly 20. That small difference could easily be explained by measurement methods or memory. What mattered was that both shared the same proportions, the same perfectly round shape, and the same metallic surface without any welds or seams. No human factory had ever produced a solid sphere that was flawless. The next link was the internal structure. Lazar claimed the reactor had a central core made of element 115, surrounded by smaller metallic orbs arranged in a perfect geometric pattern. When the Buga Sphere was scanned, researchers found an identical arrangement of one nucleus surrounded by 16 to 18 smaller spheres connected by microscopic filaments. Those connections weren't random. They followed a precise pattern that looked designed for transferring energy or information. The resemblance was impossible to ignore. Even the way the inner material reflected radiation was identical to what Lazar had described decades earlier. But the most convincing evidence came from how both objects interacted with gravity. Lazar had always said that the alien reactors he saw could reduce mass by creating a gravitational field around themselves. He said that was why those crafts could hover, move instantly, and even appear to defy inertia. When scientists tested the Buga Sphere under controlled conditions, it displayed the same behavior. Its mass dropped by more than 80% under certain electromagnetic frequencies. The object literally lost weight as if gravity had loosened its grip. There was no technology on Earth capable of doing that. Dr. Gary Nolan, a professor at Stanford University who examined the sphere, called it the most advanced piece of material I've ever seen. He was certain it had been manufactured, but admitted that the methods used were far beyond current human technology. The seamless design, the perfect internal symmetry, and the changing mass all pointed to an intelligence that understood physics in ways we couldn't yet imagine. If this was a hoax, he said, then the people behind it would have to be centuries ahead of our time. Every new test seemed to confirm what Lazar had claimed, that gravity could be manipulated, that element 115 was the key, and that humanity had only begun to touch the surface of a much deeper science. The discovery forced many physicists to re-examine their skepticism. Could it be that Lazar, the man mocked for decades, had actually glimpsed real alien technology? If so, the implications were enormous. It would mean the Buga Sphere wasn't just an object, it was proof that advanced propulsion and energy systems already existed somewhere beyond Earth. And if both devices shared the same origin, then perhaps the Buga Sphere was more than a reactor. Maybe it was a message, a piece of evidence left behind to remind us that we are not the only builders in the universe. At first, scientists believed the Buga Sphere was a one-of-a-kind mystery, a single anomaly that defied explanation. But soon, reports began surfacing from across the world, and a chilling pattern started to form. The metallic orb found in Colombia was not alone. Similar objects had been seen for decades, moving through the skies, sometimes captured on radar, sometimes even recovered after strange crashes. Each one shared the same smooth surface, the same perfect symmetry, and the same ability to move as if gravity didn't matter. The most famous early case came from 1974, when a family in Jacksonville, Florida, discovered a strange sphere on their property after a wildfire. It rolled on its own, emitted low-frequency vibrations, and rang like a bell when struck. Navy X-rays later revealed smaller spheres inside a layered metal shell, an uncanny echo of the Buga object. It became known as the Bet Sphere, and though it vanished years later under mysterious circumstances, its behavior still puzzles experts today. Then, decades later, in 2016, a U.S. military drone flying over Mosul, Iraq captured a glowing metallic orb on video. The footage, later declassified by the Pentagon, showed the object moving at high speed before suddenly stopping mid-air. Analysts called it the Mosul orb. It had no visible wings, engines, or exhaust. Even more bizarre, thermal imaging showed no heat signature, suggesting it wasn't using any known propulsion system. The Pentagon later confirmed that multiple sensors had tracked similar objects, all sharing one strange characteristic: they were spherical. By 2023, sightings of metallic orbs had spread across continents. Commercial airline pilots over the United Kingdom reported seeing bright spheres pacing their planes at cruising altitude. In Argentina and Mexico, witnesses filmed hovering lights that changed direction instantly. Some even appeared to merge and separate, as if controlled by intelligence. The reports were so consistent that the Pentagon's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office publicly acknowledged the phenomenon. During a congressional hearing, Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick stated that most unidentified anomalous phenomena detected by U.S. sensors were metallic spheres ranging from 1 to 4 meters in diameter. They could hover motionless for hours or accelerate to incredible speeds without producing sonic booms. This global pattern shattered the idea that the Buga Sphere was unique. Instead, it appeared to be part of a larger network, an interconnected fleet of devices operating across Earth. Some researchers speculated they were probes, mapping magnetic or gravitational fields. Others believed they were monitoring human activity, observing military bases and conflict zones. What made it more unsettling was their apparent intelligence. These orbs often appeared where human technology was being tested or where geopolitical tensions were high. The Buga discovery might have been the first time one of these objects actually fell to Earth intact, giving humanity a rare chance to study what had long been untouchable. Yet the timing of its appearance raised a haunting question. If these spheres have been present for decades, why now? Why allow one to fall where people could find it? And if this was no accident, could it mean the Buga Sphere was never meant to hide but to be seen? Months after the Buga Sphere was first taken into custody, the research team made a discovery that would change everything. The breakthrough came from Dr. Elena Vasquez at the National Autonomous University of Mexico. While analyzing the sphere's metallic surface under a laser microscope, she noticed something extraordinary. The metal wasn't static, it was moving. Microscopic scratches that appeared during handling began to fade on their own, as if the material was healing itself. Under magnification, the atoms rearranged in perfect order, repairing every imperfection until the surface returned to flawless smoothness. It was the first known example of self-repairing metal, a material that behaved more like living tissue than engineered alloy. The discovery stunned the scientific community, but Dr. Vasquez wasn't finished. When she performed a deeper isotopic scan, she found ratios of protons and neutrons that didn't exist in any element found on Earth. Even stranger, those isotopic values followed a repeating pattern, a sequence of prime numbers. At first, her team assumed it was noise or a calibration error. But when the data was plotted visually, the pattern became clear. Someone or something had embedded a mathematical code directly into the atomic structure of the metal. Using advanced decoding software, Dr. Vasquez converted the sequence into spatial coordinates. The result left her speechless. The coordinates pointed toward a star system roughly 37 light-years away in the southern sky, within the constellation Reticulum. Astronomers recognized the name immediately. Zeta Reticuli, the same system Bob Lazar had claimed was home to the crafts he studied at Area 51. The odds of this being a coincidence were so astronomically small that the team ruled it out completely. The message was deliberate. The material itself was carrying a signature of origin. Attempts to extract a sample for independent testing failed. Diamond saws shattered. Laser cutters reflected harmlessly off the surface. Even plasma torches couldn't leave a mark. The sphere absorbed every form of energy directed at it, converting it into harmless electromagnetic pulses. The implication was terrifying. It meant the object could control energy at a molecular level, reorganizing itself as needed. It wasn't just resistant to damage, it was indestructible by any human means. When Dr. Vasquez presented her findings to an international panel, the room fell silent. The evidence suggested intelligence, precision, and intention. This was not natural formation, nor was it human engineering. It was technology operating at a level so advanced that it blurred the line between physics and consciousness. Every experiment revealed new layers of design, as though the sphere were both machine and message at once. If the encoded coordinates were truly a signature, then the sphere was more than an object. It was a form of communication. A mathematical handshake written in the universal language of prime numbers. It was proof that whoever created it understood not only energy and matter, but also how to speak through them. But one question haunted Dr. Vasquez and her team. If this message was meant to be found, then what was humanity supposed to do with it? The discovery of the encoded message inside the Buga Sphere forced scientists to confront a possibility they had never prepared for. If this object truly came from an intelligence beyond Earth, it would mean that humanity was no longer the only architect of advanced technology. It would also mean our entire understanding of physics and our place in the universe was incomplete. The implications stretched far beyond curiosity. They reached into science, politics, and even philosophy. In laboratories around the world, researchers began to reconsider the limits of modern physics. The sphere's ability to change its own mass and absorb energy without damage suggested that gravity and electromagnetism could be manipulated in ways never thought possible. If we could decode how it worked, it might open a new era of technology, one where spacecraft could move without fuel and where clean, endless energy could replace the burning of fossil fuels. A single device like this could rewrite the global energy economy overnight. Entire industries would collapse while others would rise to power. But the idea also frightened governments. If a technology capable of altering gravity existed, whoever mastered it would control the future of warfare. Traditional weapons would become useless against crafts that could vanish, reappear, or deflect impact at will. Intelligence agencies across several nations began quietly requesting access to the sphere's research data. What started as a scientific investigation slowly turned into a geopolitical race for control. Whispers of classified experiments surfaced, with some claiming that fragments of the material had already been replicated in secret labs. Meanwhile, ethicists and philosophers raised a different concern. What if the Buga Sphere wasn't a tool at all, but a form of communication, a probe designed to observe us? The encoded prime numbers might not just indicate where it came from, but why it was sent. Some experts suggested it could be a message of peace, a test to see if humanity was advanced enough to understand it. Others warned it might be an automated surveillance system, recording data about our planet and transmitting it across light years in real time. If that was true, then humans were no longer alone in observing the universe. We were being observed too. Every possibility carried a cost. Unlocking its secrets could push civilization forward by centuries, but it could also unleash power we were not ready to handle. For some, the Buga Sphere represented hope for the dawn of interstellar understanding. For others, it was a warning, a reminder that knowledge always comes with risk. Dr. Vasquez herself once said in an interview, "The sphere does not just show us technology, it shows us a mirror." It forces us to ask whether we are wise enough to hold what it offers. And that question now echoes far beyond her lab. If this object was truly left here intentionally, then its purpose must be larger than science or politics. Could it be that the Buga Sphere was never about discovery, but about invitation? The Buga Sphere is no longer just a strange artifact, it is a mirror reflecting how little we truly know about our universe. It challenges science, rewrites history, and forces us to ask if humanity has ever really been alone. If Bob Lazar was right, then this object is not a mystery at all, but a message sent across light years, waiting for us to answer. Maybe it isn't here to scare us, but to test if we are ready to listen. So what do you think? Was the Buga Sphere a gift, a warning, or proof that we've already been found? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more mysteries like this.